Please introduce yourself and briefly summarize your education and professional background.
Hi, I'm Joe Zerko. I'm the president of WSP USA, 20,000 people across all the United States, a business involved in infrastructure, power and energy, environment, and property and buildings. My background is as a civil and environmental engineer. I started in this industry in the mid 1980s when, frankly, it was a very different industry than it is today. And I've been so fortunate in my career to see how issues around environment and infrastructure and energy have really become part of the social conscience. We're not just a regulatory driven business anymore. We're not just a have to have that road, have to have that building business anymore. It's a industry and it's a business, and I've been fortunate enough to have a 38-year career in an industry which is really contributing to the mission and fabric of our country. We're a major economic driver. We're a business that works at the grassroots level with so many communities to improve the natural environment and built environment. And I've really enjoyed the career progression that I've had, starting as a graduate engineer all the way up through project management assignments, operational assignments, business development assignments, strategy assignments, and now since April of 2024, the incredible opportunity, fortunate opportunity to lead the WSP business as the president of WSP USA.
All right, so it's been since April now, and it's about 6, 7 months. So how do you feel you've settled into the new role, and what are some of the highlights, perhaps? Any difficulties expected or otherwise?
Right. So prior to being named the president role, I was in WSP running the earth and environment business, which is one of our several business lines in the United States. So I had a little bit of an introduction to WSP since joining the company in that capacity in September of 2022. When my predecessor announced his retirement, naturally, WSP went through a process of both internal and external search. And I did put my hand up because I really felt like the potential of this company, its mission, its vision, its contribution, and the people were incredibly strong. And I wanted to be part of it. And I really felt like in my leadership, I could help take it to the next level over the next 3 to 5 years with our strategic plan, our 25 through 27 strategic plan about to be rolled out. So I put my hand up, went through a process, and thankfully was chosen. And I have to say, I dived right in. I dived right in terms of looking at the business through our client lens, where we were performing for clients, the nature of work opportunities, what I saw as growth opportunities. I looked at it through the lens of obviously our financial performance, our growth, where I think we have more opportunities to expand the business going forward, grow, provide more opportunities to our people. And then I've looked at the business through our people and culture lens in the past 6 months, really trying to understand what is it that makes us a unique employer in our space, a differentiated firm from a people and culture standpoint. What attracts people to WSP in the United States, what helps retain them, and how we can provide growth opportunities for their career going forward. And I think over the last 7, almost going on 8 months now, we've made real progress as a collective team in the United States, polishing that message, coming forward with a better employee value proposition, developing our 25 through 27 strategy, which we're going to unveil in the first quarter of next year. And I've had the pleasure of working with a great team. They're doing a great job, some really seasoned professionals. And what I've tried to emphasize, Todd, is bringing them together as a team, really maximizing their individual talents as part of a team in leading the overall business.
All right, thanks, Joe. So you mentioned the strategic plan you're going to be unveiling in the next year, but it's also almost December, and so it's often the time to look forward. Can you talk at all about some of the plans that you've got for 2025 and beyond?
Right. As a significant corporation, I would say we do strategic planning almost on a continual basis. We certainly do financial planning on a continual basis. So it's not just so much an event or one marker in time, it's a continual thing, particularly given the size and complexity of our business. So we launched into the strategic planning effort back several months ago. Not only do we do that within the US, but we do that together with our global colleagues, other regions, also supported by the group level. And that allows us to really take advantage of trends we see not only on US basis, but also on a global basis. What I've tried to emphasize in that strategic planning process, first and foremost, starts with what are those macro trends, those secular drivers, those things that we can really point to that are going to be fuel for future growth. Where is the money going to be spent? What particular market sectors? What particular geographies? What particular industries and opportunities we see that we at WSP can really be differentiated? A key part of our forward look strategy was actually enacted when we closed on the Power Engineers acquisition in September of this year. So that was already a key strategic piece that was in play, was our recognition for several years now that we could do more in power and energy. That while we had a power and energy practice and power energy clients, and in fact, I thought we were punching above our weight, we could really stand to grow because we knew money was going to go into hardening of energy. We knew transmission distribution was a major driver. We knew data centers was going to have a major impact on electrification and the need for power across the country. And we knew the energy transition was going to be a driver to future sources of energy and future distribution of energy and decarbonization. So that acquisition of Power Engineers, which we closed in September, is in fact a big part of our 25 through 27 strategy going forward. We also think we have room to grow with our business with the U.S. federal government and different clients on the Department of Defense side, as well as civilian agencies. Certainly, IIJA, the Inflation Reduction Act, bipartisan infrastructure initiatives have been a significant driver to our work in the last few years since those rules were enacted in Washington. And they have provided a significant amount of work and will continue to provide significant revenue base for us in 25 and into 26. And in environmental, we as a society in the United States have chosen to have a quality of life where protection of human health and the environment is very important. And that's manifested itself in a number of environmental legislations related to water, air, hazardous waste, the NEPA planning process for capital projects and major investments by using federal dollars. And that spending in environmental happens at the national level, the state level, and local level. And that's also going to be a big part of our work going forward. And then in property and buildings, I'm very excited about our position and our work with some of the larger data center developer clients and all the unique needs around data centers being the physical structure, mechanical, electrical, piping. And then now with the acquisition of Power, we have a unique differentiation where we can help those clients look at how they're going to electrify. And certainly data centers are heavy energy hogs. And I think we stand in a great position to help them with it. So I can go through each one of our business lines that I've just done and see a really viable growth strategy for the next year and growth strategy over the next few years in that 25 through 27 cycle. What we're doing right now is really memorializing that. We're pressure testing it. We're learning what maybe some of our colleagues in other parts of WSP are doing. And we're really rolling up our sleeves with our next set of tactical plans to grow in these strategic areas, as well as some opportunistic areas. Things like water are going to be challenging issues going forward. Some things around logistics, ports and marine, I think are going to be some interesting areas for us to monitor in the future. So those will be some of the other areas that we're going to be building out in our strategic plan and have some plans and tactics around them.
All right, so you talked about that Powers Engineers acquisition. There's a lot of members of this audience that are either going to be involved in acquisitions or already have before. Could you describe a little bit about WSP's acquisition process and how it maintains the corporate culture through that, and what those people maybe watching or listening might learn or expect from a process if they go through with such a thing?
Right. Well, WSP has made significant acquisitions, not just Power Engineers, but Golder and Woody and I in the earth and environment space, AKF earlier in 2024 in the building space in the Northeast United States, TK1SC, Engelkirk, KW, and Mission Critical. So we have been an acquirer, and we use both organic growth, and I'm happy to report we've had double-digit organic growth in the last 6 months. So organic growth is a big driver for us, and acquisitive growth. Speaking to acquisitive growth, I think the first thing that we look at a very high level, at a strategic level as a business, is where the flow of money is. What are future client demands? What industry sectors are being affected? What is it that's going to be driving the flow of funds and investment? Is it just general economic conditions, particular regulations, particular geographies, particular investments by blocks of companies, blocks of industry sectors, or something that, in the case of infrastructure investment, is a general trend that's going to result in a spend in a particular area? So the follow the money is really the first box that we look at. Secondly, we're very self-evaluative about our current capability in a particular area. We try to be humble. We try not to be arrogant. We try to really understand how strong and differentiated and capable are our services. And that helps us understand whether in a particular growth area, we really have the skill sets, the capabilities and competencies to grow organically with some additional organic investments, or whether really it's an acquisitive play that can best position us to really capitalize on the full market opportunity. And that takes, I think, a lot of self-evaluation, self-assessment, candid discussion, as well as a good understanding of the capacity that we have from a financial standpoint, because not only in an acquisitive environment is there investment to make acquisition, you also have to do the integration piece. The third thing we look at, and probably this is the first arena that can potentially be a stop point, in particular when we get to look at individual companies, is the people and culture fit. So even if an acquisition target fits from a market standpoint, even if they really augment our capability and could take us to the next level, we don't feel we're at a stage to really get aggressive in the acquisition process for that particular target unless we really feel and do our due diligence and our discussions around, do we share a similar set of values? Do we share cultural alignment? Do we really feel like their people will be a good fit with our people, with our culture, with what we've set forward for a value structure within WSP? And that's a key question. And as I offered, I think it ultimately becomes the key decision box, even ahead of doing the deal from a financial standpoint or capability standpoint. You really got to factor in, is the people and culture going to work? And you've got to look at, in our space, their technical community. How do they view their technical community? How do they look at development, career development, professional development for their people? Is that something they value in the organization? Are they differentiated? Is their mission and purpose and value as an organization aligned to what we think some of our mission, value, and purposes and are? And can we see how those two purposes come together? How we can borrow some of the best things from the target firm? And then lastly, could we see ourselves working with them through an integration process? We don't run differently branded franchises at WSP. We run an integrated company. And to do that, it means that we've got to take the best of what an acquired firm does and have them bring that into WSP. And we've got to take the best of what WSP does and offer that to the acquired firm. And we want entities that want to collaborate with us, that want to come into the WSP family, that are willing to share some of the best practices and processes and things that they do, and are willing to bring elements of their culture to our culture and bring that blended together, so that over a period of an integration period that could be short duration, 6 months for some of our smaller acquisitions, or longer duration, 1 to 2 years in some of our larger acquisitions, can we get jointly to where we want to get to as a combined entity?
All right, I think this is going to be an interested topic for our audience as far as the acquisitions. With a lot of people owning their own companies, engineering firms, and with all of your experience, are there maybe some tips, maybe some do's, don't do's for companies that are looking to be acquired that might make them more attractive to WSP? I know they can't change their culture and probably shouldn't, but what are some things that maybe they could do to if they're looking into this option?
Right. So first and foremost, Todd, I would say that any capital structure can work in our industry. So I fully respect companies that have an ESOP. In the last 5 years, there's been the uptick of a lot of companies that are private equity backed and might go through different private equity transitions over a company history. And then there's several companies that are like WSP that might be large publicly traded companies. And there are some large, great competitors to WSP that are still privately held. Any one of those capital structures can work. So I won't be forward in saying, hey, this should be the end journey of your company. It should look like this. Any one of those capital structures can work, and I'm fully respectful for the different opportunities that present to executive leadership in those firms, to employees in those firms. I think from the perspective of what we've tried to do at WSP is to present opportunity. As different companies grow, sometimes the opportunities they can present their employees change. Capital structures sometimes for privately held companies require that those that might be at the latter stages of their career or retiring stages of their career might have a share position which needs to be cashed out. Those same opportunities may not apply at this point in time to more junior members of those organizations because they may not necessarily want to be in the company that they can't envision themselves to be there 20, 25 years from now. So I think just understanding that there's opportunities that larger companies can provide at people at different stages in their career, provided those companies first and foremost are client focused. I don't think anybody wants to have organizations that don't do a great job for their clients, don't have client relationships that can be sustained over the course of many years. We want successful organizations, and I don't mean that just from the standpoint of financial performance. We want organizations that have people that have long tenures in those organizations, that have good career development paths. I go back to the client piece. They've been successful in servicing clients. That's an important thing that we look at. And I think lastly, organizations that see the potential in coming into a WSP that they can't realize on their own. So for some corporations, it might just be working domestically in the United States. We're 20,000 people in the United States, but we're 70,000 people globally. And our teams in the United States work on projects in different places. Some of our people from the United States are fortunate to take assignments in Australia or in Latin America, or at the very least, work with colleagues in different parts across the world. Those kinds of opportunities may not be open to those organizations that are maybe operating at a smaller scale. When you're in a smaller organization, you're probably a little bit more specialized, and you're probably more working within particular end market sectors. You might be a business that's just working with or largely working with state agencies in transportation, or perhaps like power engineers. The bulk of your work is with investor-owned utilities or power developers in the power end markets. What we can, as a diversified large engineering company, provide is an opportunity for people in those organizations to get exposure and work with those clients in those other end market sectors. And that generates some really unique solutions. We're already seeing that with our friends that have joined us from Power Engineers. They've largely worked with major power utilities, and that client base is phenomenal. But they really weren't working with many state agencies that were doing things like electrification of bus fleets, or airports that are looking at decarbonization and electrification and modernization of the electrical power systems. And for power engineers, that's a real challenge to crack those markets. And they've come on board here at the WSP, and all of a sudden they have access to those client relationships we have, opportunities, RFPs, chances for their team members to use those skill sets in power-related challenges, transmission, distribution, substations, energy, food and beverage. Those opportunities to use those skill sets they built up, maybe work with investor-owned utilities or in power markets, do that across other sectors. And there's some really unique dynamics that develop, and I think career enhancement and career challenges. And then lastly, in a larger company, I think it's just natural that there's different opportunities for people to do different things in their career. I mentioned earlier, perhaps an international assignment, but maybe not even something that glamorous. I think people can get the opportunity to maybe go from an operational role into a business development role, or from a purely technical delivery role into project management, and ultimately into client account management. In a larger organization, I find we can present people more of those different kinds of opportunities.
All right. Since I don't always get the chance to talk to somebody with so much expertise on acquisitions, hope you don't mind if I continue just a little bit more. So
Sure.
as an outside-ish observer of the industry, it seems that acquisitions is a really big part of the engineering business. It's either larger companies often acquiring many companies, and smaller companies seemingly like part of their main drive is to be acquired by someone. Why is that? And I don't see that in too many other fields. Why do you think that it's such an important part of the engineering business?
The engineering business is a business which has pretty low barriers to entry. You have the opportunity as a professional in this business based on client relationships to be at the startup level of an engineering business and consulting business, or perhaps take over the business from a colleague, or perhaps team with a colleague to progress through the business and operate. But it's very local many times in how we deliver. A lot of those client relationships start with a relationship to a local agency, a local transportation agency, a local water agency, a local private sector client. And as a result, historically, it's been an unconsolidated, very diverse business. What's come forward in the last few years, largely driven by cost of capital, largely driven by capabilities, largely driven by the complexity of projects. As things have gotten more complex to deliver projects to clients, as clients have wanted more one-stop shop to solve their different problems, you're seeing companies come together and say, you know, if we added your capability with my capability, we could do something bigger for our client base. If we added your capability in that city across the state together with our capability in this portion of the state, now all of a sudden we have broader coverage across the state. So I think consolidation has happened because local businesses have the opportunity to grow up in their offerings to clients, in their offerings across geographies, and in their offering and capabilities. And it's only natural that larger scale providers, consulting engineers, can take on more for their clients. They can do more complex projects. They can offer more services. And in some cases, that's very beneficial to clients that maybe just don't have one location. They operate across a national or international footprint. Or if they're a client that has needs in business, in property and buildings, as well as environmental, as well as in power. Well, those are typically three different doors to knock on in our client organizations. And by being larger, by being more consolidated as an organization, having broader capabilities, it's easier to not only knock on those three doors, but service those three doors. Yeah. And I think what I'd like to add is this industry right now has enjoyed in the last, I would say, 5 to 8 years. So even predating the bipartisan infrastructure legislation and various legislation, it's fueled a lot of growth in the last few years. This industry has enjoyed a great run. And I think it's because of our mission, our purpose, and our importance to communities, to public stakeholders, to governments. So it's really been, I think, an industry which has matured, grown up. I know talking to my peers and colleagues, there's tremendous amount of momentum behind this industry. We've attracted a lot of professionals and not just engineers. You know, all our businesses are filled now with community involvement specialists, with scientists that weren't in this business 10 or 20 years ago that now make important contributions to what we do. There's no one perfect answer to capital structure or ownership in this industry. I'll underscore that point. We have great competitors that I respect that are privately held or private equity owned or publicly traded. There's no one right solution. We frequently team with a lot of firms, and oftentimes those teaming with firms become the grassroots communications, those grassroots relationships that ultimately become discussions and ultimately mature into talk about mergers and acquisitions. And those, frankly, are the best ones that happen through teaming relationships, through seeing the compatibility of people and culture, through people enjoying working with each other. Oftentimes, one of the first things I like to explore is where we work together. Where have we been successful together? Where was it that we took what you do, what you've really done exceptionally well, even as a small company, better than our big 20,000 company team? Where have you done something really well? Where have we done something really well? Where can we jointly work together? So I'm always interested in partnering, collaborating with other firms of various sizes and scale to find out not only how we can maybe work together more in other projects and perhaps in an acquisitive setting, but also how we can do more for the public, how we can do for stakeholders. It depends so much on us for project delivery.